Welcome to another episode of Stories of Awakening podcast. Today, I have with me my friend Marlee. She's a transformational guide, and I met her as well in a coaching container that I'm currently part of. So, thank you so much, Marlee, for accepting to being here. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Amazing to be here.
So, well, as always, this is Stories of Awakening podcast. So if you want to start with your story and how you got where you are today.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I suppose I have always been interested in art and music and all these types of things that are very beautiful. But I grew up in a family that did not value those as much as myself.
Mhm.
And I ended up being it's a very athletic family, a very outdoorsy family. My dad did a lot of gardening, and I guess my mom did do, there were some artistic things that happened as well, but
Mhm.
very more front facing, um, like activities and skiing and biking and all these types of things. And so that's kind of what I based my identity around, was all these different aspects that I was good at because I was in an environment that supported that development. So I went to school for physical education. I became a kinesiologist and fitness instructor, and started a business, which I really, really did enjoy. It was exciting to start something and be my own boss. And I don't know, I was in my early 20s. So, life is easy and simple in
Mhm.
those days. And yeah, it wasn't until 2018, when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, that things really started to change for me.
Mm.
I had started to get into more of the business side of things and discovering how to make my business better, how to grow it, how to become more successful. Um, and like maybe in the back of my mind, I was trying to create, well, I was trying to recreate the life that I had it growing up. The like house and the dog
Yeah.
and the partner, all that kind of stuff, which felt really great at the time. Like I don't think I, yeah, I enjoyed it until it wasn't what I wanted anymore, I guess. Um, so when my dad got sick, it kind of it shattered my worldview, essentially. He was such a healthy, life-loving guy. Um, longevity and even just the basis of my schooling, all based around like living a healthy lifestyle and like eating, like he grew vegetables from the garden and fished in the rivers, and like we were living a healthy lifestyle, but he still got cancer. um, and so at the time I was starting to get more into mindset work, and through the business trainings that I was starting to be interested in, starting to want to shift from in-person stuff and develop some online kind of things so that I could start living more into this next lifestyle that I wanted to live, this like laptop lifestyle kind of,
Mm.
travel and have like locationless, or at least some play with that. So
Wow.
it was like wanting to grow into this and then having this thing happen at home. And it kind of just I just couldn't, I didn't have capacity for either of the things. It's like I stopped marketing as much of my in-person stuff. So I wasn't like growing my local business as much. I'd also recently started an ice cream business because ice cream is amazing.
Sure.
um, with a friend, and another aspect of maybe trying to fit into my community as also part of it, because I was targeting these like outdoor community people, or um, in the case of ice cream, just like, I don't know, people in general, people who can afford or who want to enjoy handcrafted
Wow.
gourmet artisan ice cream.
I would.
Um, yes, exactly. Yeah. So it was a bit of a, it's like a bit of this pause year. 2018 was where things kind of like started to go a little sideways. I decided to finally get a dog after having bought a house the year before with my, at the time, I think we were, had been together for like 7 years, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
Um, Now I'm like, how many years? 7? Yes. Um, and it just, yeah, I got the thing. I was trying to like, no, you don't know. That's why I'm telling you. It was like we were trying to make the best out of a situation where we weren't really talking about the thing. It's like the
Mhm.
elephant in the room is like my dad is sick and he's not getting better, and everything that's we're trying is not getting better. And here I am, like starting to learn these new tools and like the mindset stuff. And then I'm low key trying to like suggest that they do gratitude work, or, and which is great. And like, I think there is obviously some benefit to some of these things, but it was like me trying to be the, like, um, I was trying to create distance away from it by being like, oh, I'm doing all this work on myself and you need to do that too.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's not really going to change. And to a certain degree, I did mostly that to my mom, and that did not go well. I was not able to be present, I think, in a lot of that, um, partly because I just felt so overwhelmed by the whole situation. And I could just see my dad like kind of carrying on as usual kind of feeling and not wanting to do like counseling or therapy or anything like that. I could see the like friction between my mom and him, and just like the worrying of my mom that just I could see made everything worse, but I didn't know how to approach that.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it just kind of was this like this time period where things just kind of went all like loose and wonky. And yeah, it's like treatments didn't work. He ended up on chemo, and it was like a year later he passed away. And it was also during that time when a lot of my friends were like starting to think about having kids and they were getting pregnant, um and then other friends where I was maybe in the relationship the supporter for them all
Mhm.
the time. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, I'm in this place of needing support, and I have no idea how to be supported. Like,
Mhm.
no idea. So I like ended up some long relationships, some long friendships ended up kind of ending through that process because I wasn't able to communicate what I needed.
Mhm.
Um, and it was unfamiliar dynamic between the two of us for it to
Mhm.
carry on, I guess.
Mhm.
And then just the same goes for my partner to a certain degree. It was again, not knowing what I needed and not being able to communicate that, especially when like my like financial income started to decline after had like the year before we had just bought a house the year before, and I had just made like, you know, for the first time $50,000 in my business, and I was like really proud of that and wanted to really start like growing and like doing some more stuff. And
Mhm.
then it just was everything was kind of falling short. And like in hindsight, I can see that it would have been nice to have gotten more financial support from my partner at that time to alleviate that pressure.
Mhm.
Because after my dad died that year, so 2019 then was a year of like almost obsession into business. And I was, yeah, getting really excited about business, and also I'm more into the online spaces too. I was starting to invest in courses, and um, definitely brought me more into the spiritual side of things as well. That was starting to come into play too.
Mhm.
And yeah, 2019 was definitely that year of like starting to do stuff and expanding the ice cream business too.
Mhm.
So like seeing if that would be a viable project for um, the future and business. And just like it's like I wanted to carry on my father's name
Mm.
to a certain degree, because I this was a community that I grew up in. This
Mhm.
was the place that my parents decided to settle down and live. And they were both teachers in the community. So it's like the knownness. It felt like I had a reputation in
Mhm.
this place
Mhm.
and connections from, you know, all the different jobs I had growing up. And like I taught swimming lessons and, you know, just being on all these sports teams. And I don't know, it just felt like I needed to do something with all of that,
Mhm.
all those connections and community. Um, so um, yeah, so that was 2019. I like went to like a big conference in Toronto, Eastern Canada, in a big city. I live in a very small town. Slash, it's not that small. It's just isolated. It's like 12,000 people. Um,
That's where I live.
okay, yeah. But it's like a solid 6 to 8 hour drive to like a big city, which is only like 100, maybe 100,000. I don't actually know. Doesn't matter. I went to a business conference, and then I also went to a workshop in California
Mhm.
where I was just like in the mix of it and getting all these like ideas about kind of packaging up the processes and systems that I had already developed with my fitness business,
Mhm.
and tried to bring that on online and try to serve people in this remote way that I had dreamed about and all that good stuff. And then it's 2020.
Right.
So I was getting to this place where I was just starting to feel more comfortable and confident, like speaking on camera and like sharing these new tools and mindset work. And then it just felt like too much attention to be putting out at one time
Right.
without the solid, like, I've been doing this and this is how I actually feel. There was like this, now I can see this incongruency with like what I was talking about and how I was actually operating, because most of it was to hide from the grief of
Yeah.
having lost my dad.
Yeah.
Um, so it was like I was starting to, I was still trying to a certain degree. And I remember there was just one post that I put out that I was, I was saying how excited I was that this is like a time that we're always going to remember. I'm so grateful for all this like space and like time that I'm able to lean into all these things. And like, I'm excited to see what comes out of this
Mm-hmm.
experience for everybody. And that's when I got my first hater online, which is like a milestone in and of itself, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but it happened to be like someone I grew up with, someone I went to school with. I wasn't close with them, but they were also a therapist. And
Um,
they were like, how dare you? You should be ashamed of yourself. Like, actually, like,
right.
I'm not even exaggerating, but maybe
Mhm.
I am. Hard to say. No, I she would use words like this and like people are dying. And yeah, it really, yeah, I definitely curled up into hiding after that incident. And at the very, like, before, March, when this all was really hitting the fan, I was like fully into launch mode and selling this course and trying to, like, first time doing an online launch. And it's all like activate your lifestyle and all this stuff. And I had done all these like bonuses. I had literally filled my freezer with 20 Instant Pot meals. I
Mm.
was like prepared for a apocalypse. And guess what happened? An apocalypse. So yeah, I had all this stuff prepped and then I still had to make it because, I had sold this thing and then I had to actually make it. So
Mhm.
the first chunk of 2020 was delivering the stuff that I had promised to the people that had said yes, one of which was my mother-in-law, which is just a little awkward. I don't know, hard to say. We weren't close. Wasn't a fan. Um,
I didn't know
and
this. I didn't know you were launching. Okay. Well, sorry. Carry on.
yeah. You get the full story, and I'm doing so well at the time. I'm so impressed. Though
Great
this is
job.
2020, so um, so yeah, I gave myself permission to stop.
Mm.
Also, like I was trying to get all the things done, and I can't remember when I officially finished the course. And like, okay, you finished the course. Now what?
Mhm.
Um, and that was where I was starting to discover human design was summer of 2020. Though it's one of those things where you often hear about it a couple times before it actually sticks. So when I was in California the fall before 2019, a lady had mentioned it. And I was like, oh, but like, I love these Myers-Briggs personality type testing. And at the time, that's so hilarious because they're not even comparable in any way, in shape and form.
Mhm.
So that was the first time. And then it was in June 2020 when I heard about it again. And then I started to actually like look into it deeper in September. Um, and between June and September, I also got my first natal chart reading,
Mm.
um, which I had earlier in 2019, I believe, started to like, oh, the moons. Oh, I could like use this natural cycles of nature to like not do as much work. And I'm like, yes, love
Mhm.
that for me.
Yeah.
And yes, it was through the moon cycles that led me into astrology, got
Mhm.
the reading, and then was a bit shattered by that because
Yeah.
for the first time, someone's like sitting in front of me and actually I feel seen for like
Yeah.
the first time in my life. And oh, like the intensity of me that I pretend isn't there is
Mhm.
like real.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the bubbliness, because I discovered that I'm a triple Sagittarius, which is not a common thing. My sun, moon, and rising are all in Sagittarius. And then
Mm-hmm.
I have about 6 placements in Capricorn on top of that. And all of that had been getting a transit, which I know you're familiar with, Valentina.
Absolutely.
It's gotten Pluto on it. So I had been going through a pretty deep transformation for the majority of my life. And it's only now, actually,
Mm-hmm.
that we're coming out of it. It was the last placement with my North Node, um, that
Mm-hmm.
was getting this activation. So it kind of gave me the reading, gave myself a bit of a permission slip to kind of like
Yeah.
blow shit up a little, like risk, like to listen and not hide myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been like years of time of, I feel like I'm finally again coming out of this hiding
Sure.
situation.
Yeah, you're here.
um,
So
yeah, I'm here. I'm talking. Um,
about
so
you.
so that was a pretty big moment for me. Um, it was like, I guess, the first kind of pull out of being in this at that time now, what, 8 years relationship
Mm-hmm.
in the timeline.
I think it's right.
Yeah, about
Fine.
that. 8 year long relationship that I had just like it's like I didn't even question being in it. I was just in it. It's like, is the
Mm-hmm.
sky blue? Like, are my eyes blue? Yes. Um, so that was the first, yeah, it was me giving, I was given permission to be myself. And like, these are the ways that those things show up. And it's like this intensity, this like bright light fire
Mm-hmm.
that I had been like putting in this little box of fitness and nutrition and mindset work, um, all that stuff, which is important, has a place. And I definitely feel like it's like this full circle thing where you got to go deep into the the depths of things, to then come out on the other side of it. And I can see where like that's actually where I need to be doing more of is like movement and activity and the lightness and brightness. I need to come through a cycle of that and
Mm-hmm.
show more of that and live more of that. Um,
Yeah.
so then in September was when I started diving into human design. And that was a whole freaking that like human design has been a huge, huge part of my time, my
Mm-hmm.
awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it gave more specifics to my needs, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It was showing me when I first started looking into the moon cycles, this like do less kind of thing. I was shown like, oh, hey, you actually don't have this endless reserve of energy that your partner does, or your parents do, or the world does.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was allowing myself to have space between myself and everything else, all the relationships, all of the dynamics, all of the systems, that I just, you just unconsciously are in all these things.
Yeah.
Um,
This is
yeah,
such a powerful tools. And so for you was more powerful human design than astrology, you would say?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I enjoy using both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I find the body graph, like finding out that I'm a projector,
Mm-hmm.
having these like dual, because I think both of them are useful, um, but only focusing on the personality, which is
Mm-hmm.
the astrology,
Mm-hmm.
is just more limited. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's
Yeah.
cool to see those things that are like conscious, like are a lot like are more glaringly obvious, But even just based on my education and schooling and upbringing, like the body, not to be forgotten in
Absolutely.
all of this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Amazing. Yeah. I think my love is still stronger for astrology for some reason. Also because I
Mhm.
really like to see how it plays out in the collective. So I like it in that way too. I'm not an astrologer, as I always say, but I understand a few things. But I really love human design too, and it's more how to use your energy, probably, right? For the for the maximum success, if we can call it like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and it is, yeah, and what you mentioned earlier about, having the permission to rest and to stop and things like that, which is so not common, I think, in the Western world, especially. And I always say it, but I worked in finance, and rest is not a word that they say very often. Like, it's always working, working. So, yeah, those tools tell you that actually rest is part of your life and is productive as other moments in your life where you're actually doing and taking actions and things. To me, that was life changing. And then I connected it to nature. Nature also has cycles and moments where, there's not always blossoming flowers and stuff. Depends where you
Mhm.
live, I guess. But, it's just a cycle. Yeah, there is a time for everything. So yeah, those were important things for me to understand from these tools.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I find I don't even know if I could put human design or astrology. Like
Yeah, I get it.
I um like what as far as like the body graph versus the natal chart,
Hmm.
maybe just because
Hmm.
there's more information in the human design, like more information in the human design chart. What I love astrology for is the transits.
Yeah.
It's the collective now time.
Hmm.
And I think astrology has a really lovely way of um just and I'm doing things with my hands, you can't see them. It's like the flow of it, the like
Yeah.
all the archetypes. They're all both of the systems are archetypal based systems, and
Yeah.
it gives you this like theme or this different energy or vibe that you can tune into and that more than just you are experiencing, which is really incredible.
Yeah, and I think for me astrology was very helpful also looking back at my life and explain why certain things happen at a certain time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that I didn't do anything wrong, everything was supposed to go like that. So it gave me also, yeah, a peace of mind in that sense that everything is how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's why I really like astrology. On the other hand, I try not to look too far ahead because, you might get scared or worried that something is going to happen, you never know. So, yeah, what I
Mm-hmm.
use it for is for now, the energy that I'm in now, how I can use it best, and explaining why stuff happened in my life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks for sharing all of that. That was great. I didn't know any of these things. Well, some of it probably. And so, what do you do now?
Yeah, so that actually is where I left off in my story.
Yeah, I was
Because
just
what I
reminding you.
so after discovering human design, I decided to join my was it my very first online women's circle.
Hmm.
I had done one around the time my dad passed away, doing Ayurveda,
Hmm.
and I didn't contribute a lot. I did not speak. It was in person. It was with people that I knew, not
Hmm.
well, acquaintances and stuff like that. Growth edge there for sure. But this one was online, and it was like the first time that I had a space to fully just be a new person and to like express all the stuff that had been going on. Um, I chose to do it because I knew I needed to start talking, and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't. My friendships, relationships we were kind of just like growing on different timelines in different places. And, I was telling everybody about the stuff that I was up to and entrepreneurship and all these new systems I was discovering. It's like I didn't have people to talk to about this stuff. And so I joined this women's circle and I learned how to really listen to people and like to hold space, to actively, absorb someone else's experiences and be curious about them
Mm-hmm.
and use them as reflective points for me to think about my own experiences too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so women's circles, and through that, the instructor also facilitated breath work.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that now 2021 that I started practicing breath work. So we started off with a couple one-on-one sessions, and then I started going to her classes, which I mean, it was like a monthly kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, those three things, breathwork, human design, and women's circles are like my things. I like to smush them all together and create just magical things with them. Yeah, those are the things that I used for, the rest of my journey
Mm-hmm.
up until this point.
Yeah, they can work really well together for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, so which kind of breath work do you do? And if you want to talk a little bit more about breath work, because I don't think I talked about it yet in my podcast. So yeah, it would be great to
Yeah.
a little bit more. I tried it myself and it's magical. So yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
definitely something that I recommend to anyone.
Yeah. Well, I did a training for trauma-informed breath work. It is
Hmm.
a holotropic um, form
Hmm.
of breath work, where you are intentionally activating your body into a stress response to then release that stress out.
Hmm.
So, very common in our society, Western, Eastern, I don't know. I'll just
Hmm.
stick with Western. In this society that I reside, we are trained to shut down our body's natural responses to stress and trauma. And these are the fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Um, did I forget one? No. Um, those are those responses that we automatically go into. And especially for women, we tend to go into these fawn freeze stages where that stress is held in the body. It doesn't get to be released through the fight or flight options. And so setting up a space where you're able to like be guided through a process of activating the body through the breath. So we do a three-part breath sequence that changes the oxygen levels in your body. It gives you some pretty wild bodily sensations. Lots of things can show up. And a big part of it is just being present with that. It's noticing what's happening and realizing that you are in control of what you're feeling. You can pause and take breaks at any time. It's not about, although I feel like with holotropic breathwork, it often can be about like pushing the limits and going hard. It has that vibe to it, I would say. But that's not how I like to do it. It's kind of like holotropic light, but also
More
it doesn't.
feminine.
Yeah, it's the feminine holotropic. So it's deepening into just all the movements and expressions and sounds that can come out of your body. Because I know my human design, though, that's been a lot of my process is opening up my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where doing more of the vocal toning and the sounds can really be, for my experience, really healing to be able to just make whatever sound you want to. Helps that I live alone, of course, too. Um, but yeah, it's a journey. It's the breath work is a journey where there's a peak, where we're building up slowly to a peak, where we collectively will be able to release through a primal sound um, anything you want, really. And
Mm-hmm.
even that in itself, like how often are we allowed to scream and cry, like sob? We
Mm-hmm.
don't give ourselves space and time to do that, especially if there are other people around. And yeah, you can just like put a pillow on your face too if you need to.
Yeah.
And then coming down after that is really deepening into this fully relaxed, fully supported space.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's been yeah, a very crucial part for me in reestablishing um like my own energy and getting rid of so much of that stuck, resentful, bitter, like gunk
Mm-hmm.
from my own experiences, but all the stuff that I'd taken on from other people.
Yeah.
And because I'm able to use this practice, um, I'm able to regulate myself a lot better.
Yeah.
And then I can also show up for other people a lot better.
Yeah.
I don't have to make their problems my problems. I can just listen and not get into this activated state. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, it can be very similar to a psychedelic experience
Mm-hmm.
because you're getting into these altered states of consciousness, um, except you don't have to ingest any substances.
Yeah.
You can connect to this deeper part of yourself, to this higher part of yourself too,
Mm.
and be able to process and integrate
Yeah.
your experiences from before, or maybe you're wanting to um, discover, explore new things going into your future. And it's just a really amazing space to explore and journey into these unknown spaces, but with
Absolutely. Yeah.
comfort and safety.
Yeah. I remember the first time I tried it. It was during some lockdown in 2021, probably. I was back in London still, and I remember having the weirdest body shivers, like it was vibrating my body.
Mhm, mhm.
And also I had, I think they're called lobster clubs. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, club.
technique.
Yeah, and I remember the instructor there was saying that it's because I was resisting something. So there was a lot of resistance, and it was so weird. For a few minutes after the breath work, I couldn't, like, yeah, people cannot see because there is no video, but um, yeah, I couldn't open my hands for a bit, but then, it's nothing. I was I was warned before that that could happen, so I wasn't worried or anything. But it was the first few times was very weird sensation, and I think I couldn't go as deep because it's new and I needed to get used to it. And I think with time, when you know how it works and get confidence, at least that was my experience. Of course, I could really let myself go and release more, I would say. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, and also, you can get really in tune with your intuition. Like you can really hear some answers that you were asking, you had questions and you didn't have answer for months and months, and then you do a breathwork session and finally this answer comes. So
mhm,
it's really magical. And I think for me, the best use for now is really release. Like as you said, it's very hard to scream. And is like screaming is an amazing release, and crying is happen more often to me. But yeah, sometimes we don't have time or we don't allow ourselves to process certain things, and that's your moment to do it. So yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
really great what you do. Thank you. And
Yeah.
I've been wanting to come to your women's circle for ages, and for one reason or another, where now is the time zone, I guess. But yeah, I will come for sure.
Yeah, yes, I am harnessing the timing of the stars.
Yeah,
No, the
great.
phases of the moon to line up, doing the women's circles with the new moon. Beautiful
Hmm.
time to set intentions and kind of share our journeys together and everything that comes up over a span of a month, as well as breath work with the full moon. So a great time to celebrate everything that's coming to fruition, and also release everything that is stuck and stagnant. And I am going to be doing another breathwork this weekend. I have new ones coming out here and there everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I know you need to go soon, right? So I don't know if there was. Yeah. Okay. Um.
Got 10
Yes.
minutes, 15.
Cool. Is there anything else that you want to share, add, say?
Um, yeah, I mean, this was great. This
Yeah.
was great. I didn't, sorry, I said it like I was saying it to you, not like the people.
That's perfect.
Uh,
There's nobody else here.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I would encourage people to find ways that they can prioritize themselves through whatever things they're going through. It's very easy to get caught up in other people's stories and kind of how you fit into their lives,
Hmm.
um, and where like you come in near the bottom of that list. So just an encouraging piece to look at, yeah, what do you need? Like what are the things you need, and how can those be used to get more of what you want too at
Yeah.
the same time?
And
Win.
yeah, exactly. And there are whatever people are going through right now, there are solutions. You shared a very powerful story where, there are challenges in this story too, and you are on the other side now. And so my hope with this podcast and with stories like yours is just also to show that you can be happy again, you can be okay again, and there are tools to heal, to evolve, to feel better, to process what happened to you in life. And I'm so grateful to, yeah, meet you and all of the people that, overcame something and now they're able to offer their support to others that
Mhm.
are going through something as well. I think that's the point of sometimes going through challenges too, so we are able to support others.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thanks. Great. So if people want to find you, work with you, how do they find you? We can put the links in the show notes, but we can also say it here.
Sure. It's at Marlee Cater, Marlee with two E's, Cater, not Carter.
Mm,
I'm on Instagram, and I have a website too where I have all my upcoming gatherings, and I will be putting up my shop as well. I make
oh,
stuff.
right. We didn't talk about that. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
I
I love
make
what
stuff,
you do.
earrings and artwork things.
Infused with
Yes,
intentions.
intention. Yes, exactly.
That's
Yes, one right
beautiful.
back here. Mhm.
Great. Okay. We will put the link to that too, so
Okay,
people know what you
sounds
do.
good.
Okay. And you said that your next women's circles is this weekend? No.
Next breathwork is this weekend, and then I'm doing an experiment and kind of making a container for the same group of women to go through at least one cycle of the moon together. Maybe one or two. I haven't decided yet, but
Was
stay
such
tuned.
an amazing idea.
Yes.
And time zone wise, is it gonna be uh
I'm gonna attempt to make it like friendly for multiple time zones.
yeah, sure.
That's my intention.
No, it sounds great anyway. I think it's an amazing idea. It's really nice to go through the same cycle with the same people. Yeah,
Mhm.
great idea. Okay,
Yay.
great. So thank you so much for telling us your story and what you do now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. Bye.